Hi, Xonia Falcons. It's Mrs. Yearling here to read a book to you this summer. I was at our public library and I found this book and I really, really enjoyed it. Not only is it a book, but it's also been made into a short film. So after we're done reading this book, I will share that link with you. I hope you enjoy The Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lesmore. The book was written by William Joyce and illustrated by William Joyce and Joe Blum. Morris Lesmore loved words. He loved stories. He loved books. His life was a book of his own writing, one orderly page after another. He would open it every morning and write of his joys and sorrows, of all that he knew and everything he hoped for. But every story has its upsets. One day the sky darkened and the winds blew and blew, till everything Morris knew was scattered, even the words of his book. He didn't know what to do or which way to go, so he began to wander and wander. Then a happy bit of happenstance came his way. Rather than looking down, as had become his habit, Morris Lesmore looked up. Drifting through the sky above him, Morris saw a lovely lady, and she was being pulled along by a festive squadron of flying books. I think I would follow that too. Morris wondered if his book could fly, but it couldn't. It would only fall to the ground with a depressing thud. The flying lady knew Morris simply needed a good story, so she sent him her favorite. The book was Amiable Fellow and urged Morris to follow him. The book led him to an extraordinary building where many books apparently nested. I wonder what kind of place that could be. Morris slowly walked inside and discovered the most mysterious and inviting room he had ever seen. It was filled with fluttering of countless pages, and Morris could hear the faint chatter of 1,000 different stories, as if each book was whispering an invitation to adventure. Have you ever been to a library and had that feeling? Then his new friend flew up to him and landed on his arm. It held itself open as if hoping to be read. The room rustled to life, and so Morris's life among the books began. Morris tried to keep the books in some sort of order, but they always mixed themselves up. The tragedies needed cheering up and would visit with the comedies. The encyclopedias, weary of facts, would relax with the comic books and fictions. All in all, it was an agreeable jumble. Morris found great satisfaction in caring for the books, gently fixing those with fragile bindings, folding the dog-eared pages of others. Sometimes Morris would become lost in a book and scarcely emerge for days. Have you ever felt like that, so lost in a book? I have. Oh, he is just buried in this book. Morris liked to share his books with others. Sometimes it was a favorite that everyone loved, and other times he found a lonely little volume whose tale was seldom told. Everyone's story matters, said Morris, and all the books agreed. At night, after all the stories that needed telling had been told, and everyone had settled down to their proper places on the shelves, the great big dictionary would get in the last word. Zzz. It was then that Morris Lesmore would once again write in his own book. He wrote of his joys and sorrows, of all that he knew and everything that he hoped for. The days passed, and so did months, and then years and years. And Morris Lesmore became stooped and crinkly. But the books never changed. Their stories stayed the same. Now his old friends took care of him the way he had once cared for them, and they read themselves to him each night. Then one day he filled the last page in his book. He looked up and said with a bittersweet sigh, "I guess it's time for me to move on." The books were sorry, but they understood. Morris put on his hat and he took his cane. And as he went to the door, he turned and smiled and then waved goodbye. "I'll carry you all in here," he said, and pointed to his heart. The books waved their pages, and Morris Lesmore flew away. And as he flew, he changed back to the way he had been, that long ago day when they'd all first met. The books were quiet for a while, and then they noticed that Morris Lesmore had left something behind. "It's his book," said his oldest friend. Inside was Morris's story, all of his joys and sorrows, all that he knew and everything he had hoped for. Then the books heard a small, expectant sound. There in the doorway was a little girl, and she looked around with wonder. Then something fantastic happened. Morris Lesmore's book flew up to her and opened its pages. The girl began to read. And so our story ends as it began, with the opening of a book. So, Falcons, I hope you enjoyed this book and really thought about how books can take you on different adventures. And not only can books be something that are read, but books are also things that can be created by you, of sharing your own joys and sorrows and your own stories of adventure. So, I hope that you spend some time reading this summer, maybe exploring the library, as well as doing some writing. And I would love to see some of that writing when you come back in the fall and hear of your adventures. All right, have a great rest of your summer. I have also included the link for your mom and dads to help you watch the animated video of this book as well.